Good morning to you. I mean, these kind of problems have always existed, though, haven't they, between segregation? How can you categorically say that since Brexit, this has become, since the vote, this has become so much worse?
Well, if you look at the research that has been done, 62% of second-generation immigrants, so people like me, my father first came to the country in the mid-1960s from Nigeria, say that they believe that our country has become less tolerant during and after that EU referendum campaign.
More racist? You mean more racist?
Well, I think I wouldn't like to go straight to the race angle, because immigration isn't necessarily always a race issue, because a lot of the concerns that people have expressed, for example, have been in relation to people who look like you, Richard, who are not of colour like myself. So I think that's too simplistic. But I think the problem that we've got with the debate in our country is so focused on numbers and numbers of people coming to the UK, which I'm not saying is an illegitimate debate, but there's far too little focus on actually what happens to people when they settle here. And what we have seen through the course of the inquiry that we've done, we've been in Yorkshire, we've been in London, we've been in Lincolnshire, we've been around the country, and we're made up of MPs from across the UK, is that actually the poisonous tone of the debate and the way in which very often people of an immigrant background, both recent newcomers but also second, third generation people, are, if you like, demonised, is actually standing in the way of newcomers wanting to be part of the communities into which they are going. And that's both from the empirical evidence that we've taken, but also oral evidence and what we've seen around the country. And the thing is with this, Richard, is that integration is a two-way street. You know, of course, people who are coming here, like my father came here in the mid-1960s, I mean, he really wanted to integrate and become part of the life of this country.
There are some areas where they don't want to, though, and actually, they're saying, immigrants are saying, this is great, we'll come here, but we want to be in an area where we've got people around us that are similar to us, and we want to be that one step removed from the rest of the community.
But part of that comes, and this is why, if you look at settled immigration and immigrant communities, we've got second and third generation as well, they've often clustered together because of the hostile environment that they've often come into. I mean, look, in the mid-1960s, when my father arrived here, you were a brave guy, if you were a young black man walking down the street at night in the UK in the mid-1960s. Now, thank God we've moved on from that. But, what we want is to have a situation where people are mixing, there is a cohesive community, because where you don't have that, there is a lack of trust into which the peddlers of hate can go into. And that's bad for us, to have communities in which people distrust each other, but it's actually bad for newcomers, because it deprives them of opportunities and being part of the great things that Britain brings.
This group talks about the poisonous tone, and there's no doubt about it, the tone did become very toxic during the EU debate, on both sides.
Yes.
But can we be a bit more specific than that? I mean, are we talking, say, for example, about key pivotal moments in the campaign, like that UKIP poster, showing hordes of strangers flooding into the country? Were there key moments that did it? And at the time, did you look at that poster and think, oh, God, this is going to set us back years? Did you feel that at the time?
Do you know what? I think everybody did. And, wherever you are on the debate, whether you have concerns about immigration, and look, we don't deny that immigration doesn't pose challenges for different communities, but it doesn't need to be that way.
It was the way it was framed.
If you make the right policy interventions, you provide the support to communities. Take Boston, for example, that we visited as part of this inquiry. Now, Boston was kind of put up as the pin-up of anti-immigrant sentiment in our country. But actually, if you see what's happening in Boston, it was much more complex when we visited. People didn't, hate and dislike the immigrants in their community. They actually wanted to know them better. But if you look at what had happened in Boston over the 12 years into the end of, into 2012, they'd seen immigration increase by over 400%, and they'd be given no support to deal with that.
What do you think could be done about it? Because you can't tell people what to think, and the moment you start trying that, you get a negative reaction. People won't be told what to think, and there is a lot of suspicion of immigration in this country, partly to do with the debate, but also because that was there anyway.
Yes.
You're right, it is an issue that self-stands. What can be done to detoxify it, to calm things down, and to get people thinking and talking rationally about something which does need to be discussed?
Well, first of all, I think politicians who talk about these things need to talk responsibly about it.
Calm down.
And calm down and not use inflammatory rhetoric, not use posters like you rightly point out with the Breaking Point poster. That's the first one. The second one, there's definitely an issue with newcomers often not being able to speak English properly when they come to our country. And that's not because of a lack of a desire to do so. The overwhelming majority of immigrants who come here cannot speak English, want to learn English, but there are barriers. About 800...
What barriers?
Well, first of all, ESOL classes, English as Second Language classes, funding's been massively cut for that, so we think government should better support that.
But also get yourself a, you know, a kind of CD or something, or an online course.
It's actually quite difficult, and a CD is no substitute for proper training and learning. And there are about 800,000, at least 800,000 people who've come here recently who can't speak English properly, and that acts as a big barrier. And actually also, I mean, we were criticised in our interim report for making the suggestion that actually English language learning should be something that's expected of you. So either you know it before you come or you learn it here. And part of the reason we did that is not to in no way attack immigrants, but we think it should be like a right that you have to be able to speak English. And some communities, there are impediments for some, you know, some communities with women not being able to go and learn English. So that needs to, and also the other thing, looking at the other dimension to this, people feeling that the system's out of control, is to devolve immigration policy. So regions get to determine, have more power over who is coming to their areas based on economic needs.
Because it's so diverse in different areas.
Exactly. So, say, take London and Scotland. The London Chambers of Commerce is arguing for there to be a London visa, so we can actually get more people coming to the economy. But in other parts of the country, they might not feel that's right. So if you actually give local people more control over these things, they don't feel that, you know, here in London it's been imposed on you.